The A-10's unfinished business in Ukraine. News just broke that the U.S. Air Force is finally pushing the legendary A-10 Thunderbolt II, yes, the Warthog, out to the Arizona boneyard. But as Ukraine faces waves of Russian Shahed drones, military tech nerds everywhere, myself included, are screaming at their screens, just send the BRRRRT machine to Kyiv already. On paper, it's a match made in drone-smashing heaven. An aircraft famous for tank busting that could also unleash a biblical storm of guided rockets against drones and naval threats. So why is the Air Force determined to retire the A-10, and what's stopping the U.S. from shipping these beasts east before they rust in the desert? Well, let's dig in. Hey friends, Wes O'Donnell here, veteran, law grad, and professional military tech nerd. If you want military myth-busting and hard truth about the war in Ukraine, you're in the right foxhole. Today I'm tackling a question that's been haunting every aviation forum for a year. Is the A-10 Warthog the anti-drone superhero Ukraine desperately needs? Or is it just a Cold War relic with no place in modern skies? So here's the news. The Pentagon's latest budget quietly admits what some of us have suspected: the A-10 can now launch the same advanced precision kill weapon system, APKWS, rockets that are turning F-16s and F-15Es into drone swatting machines. With new Falco software and proximity fuses, these 70mm rockets aren't just for ground targets. They're drone and cruise missile killers. But the Air Force is planning to retire all 162 A-10s by 2026. As the drone war heats up, especially with Russia throwing hundreds of Shaheds at Ukraine, the idea of keeping the Warthog on station suddenly sounds less like nostalgia and a lot more like common sense. If you're the kind of person who thinks BRRRRT is the sound of freedom, you're probably wondering why the US isn't painting some blue and yellow stripes on these jets and putting them back to work. Well, let's set the scene. Russia's Shahed 136 kamikaze drones are saturating Ukrainian skies. These are cheap, slow-moving targets that, unfortunately, have a nasty habit of slipping past even the best air defenses, sometimes simply because it's not cost-effective to shoot a $2 million missile at a $50,000 drone. Ukraine's arsenal? Well, it's a dog's breakfast of air defense, a handful of Patriots and NASAMs, precious unlimited, plus mobile, gun teams, aging MiGs, and improvised solutions, and also F-16s that they're using as counter-Shahed solutions right now. Every week, Ukrainians' Air Force and ground crews are forced to MacGyver new ways to keep the drones at bay. This is exactly where the A-10 would thrive. Its low speed, its agility, its long loiter time, and legendary survivability, plus the new APKWS rockets, make it the perfect sentry for defending cities, power plants, and frontline bases. And let's be honest, nothing says welcome to Kyiv like a 1970s warplane that's already survived more Soviet missiles than Russia could launch in a year. The A-10 can carry dozens of APKWS rockets, each one equipped to home in on a drone using a laser, spot and detonate with a proximity fuse. With its massive underwing pylons, an A-10 can theoretically launch more than 38 of these bad boys in a single sortie. Compared to a Patriot missile or even an AIM-120, these APKWS rockets are dirt cheap. We're talking $30,000 a shot, compared to $500,000 for a standard air-to-air missile. So now you can swat dozens of Shaheds and keep the expensive kit in reserve for cruise missile threats. The A-10's slow flight characteristics and ability to hang around for hours are key here. Where a fast-moving F-16 might have to circle back to engage another drone, the A-10 can loiter at low altitude, visually acquire targets, and launch a steady stream of guided rockets. It's not just about quantity. The A-10's ruggedness is legendary, built to absorb damage and keep flying. It's the original get out and kick the tires jet. When you're defending a fixed position, that toughness means it can survive the occasional ground fire or mishap. Unlike most of the fragile, modern fighter jets, yes, even the F-16. And for those thinking ahead, as new APKWS variants get true fire and forget capability with dual-mode seekers, the A-10's role could become even more efficient. One pilot, dozens of drones, splashed per sortie. Transferring A-10s to Ukraine would free up F-16s and Mirages for their primary missions, air superiority, and interdiction. You want your best jets hunting Su-34s, not wasting missions on propeller drones. The Warthog's loiter and defend profile would also let Ukraine deploy persistent, affordable air cover over critical infrastructure. The aircraft's ability to operate from rough runways or in what passes for a runway in wartime Ukraine makes it especially attractive for forward deployments. And let's not forget psychological warfare. Russian drone operators are tough until they're staring down a wall of smoke trails and a sound that means instant regret. This is the perfect, underappreciated force multiplier. I almost threw up. Every time you say force multiplier, I get a little vomitous. This is the perfect, underappreciated force multiplier for defending Ukrainian airspace against the constant harassment of Shaheds and even surface drones in the Black Sea. A-10s could change the calculus for Russian planners in a way that's both tangible and visible. But, and this is a big but, there are reasons the US hasn't sent the A-10s. First, airspace. The A-10 only shines when it's not constantly threatened by enemy fighters and advanced SAMs. Ukraine's skies are still contested, with Su-35s and MiG-31s lurking, and with S-400 batteries still active. The Warthog would have to operate very carefully or risk being turned into a smoking heap by a Russian ground-to-air missile. Second, the A-10 doesn't have its own onboard offensive radar, which means it relies on external sensors or target designators. The A-10C variant has been integrated with advanced targeting pods like the Lightning and the Sniper pods, which utilize technologies like laser designators and thermal imagers and CCD-TV to acquire and track targets. But that's an extra layer of complication in a chaotic environment, and Ukraine's network targeting is still a work in progress. Third, Ukraine isn't actually asking for the A-10, at least not yet. Air Force Secretary Frank Kendall has testified that Ukraine isn't banging down the Pentagon's door for Warthogs. Why? Well, they're worried about survivability and about the logistics of retraining pilots and maintainers for a jet the US is actively scrapping. Fourth, the A-10's value add is strictly in permissive airspace, or at least in sectors where Russia can't mass fighters and air defenses. If it's not paired with F-16s or other platforms to guarantee air superiority, it's a sitting duck. Ukraine's doctrine is shifting to networked, multi-role fighters that can survive in contested air. Exactly what the A-10 isn't. Fifth, politics. Let's not kid ourselves. U.S. assistance to Ukraine is a minefield of bureaucratic hand-wringing. One day, all aid to Ukraine stops. The next day, Trump says it's on again. Who knows what the is going on in Washington, D.C.? Congressional logjamming and diplomatic nonsense. Even if the A-10 were a slam dunk militarily, the politics of transferring a retired fleet, especially with offers to send them to other allies already on the table, already on the waiting list, means Ukraine is way down the pecking order. The irony here, though, the U.S. is about to junk the world's greatest close air support plane right as it finally gets a role where it can be a superhero again. The same drone-busting, APKWS slinging Warthog could be a mainstay, not just in Ukraine, but also for defending bases and islands in the Pacific, another theater where persistent, affordable air defense is at a premium. Now, Jordan has shown interest. Other U.S. allies staring down Iranian drone swarms are watching closely, but the U.S. Air Force is ready to bury the fleet, just as the A-10's utility is clearer than ever. Let's be real, if there was ever a time for the world's last Warthogs to step into history one final time, it's now. And Ukraine is the battlefield that needs them. Yes, the airspace is dangerous, and yes, there are logistical hurdles, but guess what? Every platform Ukraine operates is already a Frankenstein of legacy tech, patchwork parts, and creativity on the fly. They're not afraid of a challenge. If you want to stop Russian Shaheds, you need more than prayers and billion-dollar missiles. You need volume, precision, and something that strikes fear into drone operators and tankers alike. That's the A-10. Ukrainian crews are already flying a ragtag collection of MiGs, Su-25s, L-39s, even trainers, pressed into combat. The Warthog could be the ultimate upgrade. Easy to maintain, absurdly rugged, able to operate from rough fields, and crucially, now able to launch dozens of APKWS rockets in a single sortie. Forget the museum piece stigma. This is the right tool for the right job, at exactly the right moment. Let's stop wringing our hands about whether it's doctrinally pure or fits some ideal NATO vision. Let's solve the problem in front of us. Shahed swarms, maritime drones, cheap flying bombs, overwhelming fixed defenses. Give Ukraine the means to punch back with persistent, affordable, loitering air power. The A-10 gives them exactly that. And the political argument? Well, if we're scrapping these jets anyway, why not let them go down in a blaze of glory, helping Ukraine defend its cities and push Russian forces back? It's a narrative that writes itself. The BRRRRT that saved Kyiv. Tell me that isn't better than rusting in an Arizona boneyard. So yes, it's time for Ukraine's BRRRRT. It's time for the A-10 to earn its last chapter. Not as a relic, but as the hero it was built to be. Congress, Pentagon, White House, if you want a game changer that doesn't cause billions or risk escalation, send the Warthog east. Let's see how Russia likes getting a little taste of close air support, American style. Okay, if you like hard-hitting, no-nonsense analysis of how yesterday's legends can solve today's battlefield nightmares, hit subscribe and report for duty. The BRRRRT may be going silent, but this channel's intel is always loud. And as always, glory to Ukraine, glory to the heroes. Crimea will always be Ukraine.